Good morning and welcome everyone to this Gita class. Let's start the class with some prayers. Om Parthaye Pratibodhitam Bhagavata Narayan Swayam Vyasen Gratitam Puran Munina Madhye Mahabharatam Advaitam Ritvarshini Bhagavati Mashtadashadhyayane Amb Tvam Anusandhame Bhagavad Gita Bhavdveshine Namo Astute Vyas Vishal Buddhe Full Arvind Ayat Patra Netar येन्तव्या भारत तैल पूर्ण प्रज्वलितो ज्ञान में प्रदीप परपान पारी जाता ये तोत्र वेत्र एक पानय ज्ञान मुद्राए कृष्णाय गीता अमृत दुहे नमः सर्वोपनिषदो गावो दोगदा गोपाल नंदना पार्थो वत्सा सुधीर भोगता दुग्धम गीता अमृतम महत वसुदेव सुतम देवम कंस चानूर मर्दनम देवकी परमानंदम कृष्णम वंदे जगतगुरुम भीष्म द्रोण तटा जयद्रथ चला गांधार नीलोत्पला शल्य ग्रावती कृपेन वाने कर्णेन वेलाकुला अश्वत्थाम विकर्ण घोर मकरा दुर्योधन अवर्तनी सो तीर्ना खलु पांडवई रन नदी के वर्तका केशवा पाराशर्य वत्सर रोज अम्लम गीता अर्थ गंधोटकम नाना ख्यान केसरम हरि कथा संबोधन अबोधितम लोके सज्जन षटपदय रह पे पिये मानम मुदा भूयाद भारत पंकजम कलिमल प्रध्वंसी न श्रेयसे मूकम करोति वाचालम पंगुम लंघ्यते किरम यत्कृपातमं वंदे परमानंद माधवम यम ब्रह्म वरुण इंद्र रुद्र मरुतः स्तुन्वन्ति दिव्यस्तवे वेदै सांग पद क्रमोपनिषदै गायन्ति यम सामगा ध्यान अवस्थे तद्गतेन मनसा पश्यन्ति यम योगिनो यस्यन्तं न विदुसुर असुरगना देवाय तस्मै नमः. So chapter 17, verse number 7. So we'll see in these following verses, Lord Krishna is explaining the qualities of the sattvic, the rajasic, and tamasic pertaining to the food we eat, the worship we do, the austerities we perform, and the alms we give. Because we all do these things. All day long we eat food. We do the worship also in our own way to a certain altar. And we do follow certain sacrifices also, austerities, tapasyas. And as human beings, we learn from the nature that we need to give away also, which is called dhan or charity. So let's see how he defines all this. Verse number 7, if you want to open your books. This is that's where he's just opening up this topic for us. So he says, Ahar tu api sarvasya trividha bhavati priya yagya tapaha tatha danam tesham bhedam imam shun. Ahar is food, tu means indeed, api also, sarvasya of all. Trividha, threefold. Bhavati is priya, dear. Yagya, sacrifice. Tap, austerity or penance. Tatha means also. Danam, alms giving. Tesham, their. Bhedam, distinction. Imam Shrinu, Imam means this, Shrinu means here. The food also which is dear to each is threefold, as also sacrifice, austerity, and almsgiving. Here, the distinction of these. The mind and body impact each other. So that's why whether it's a food or other activities which we do, they influence their nature and vice versa. So in this particular verse, verse number 7 of this chapter, Lord Krishna is introducing the theme which is to follow in next several verses. So he is enumerating the topics that he is going to discuss. The temperamental influences that govern the mind and its thought life express themselves in all departments of our activities. the choice of our food, the kind of a company we keep, friends, the type of emotions in our heart, even the view of life. We entertain all that, and we do have a freedom to choose. But they all are indicative of the type of which the seeker belongs. So in the past, whatever we chose, we just made our temperament like that. And according to the temperament, we are choosing now also, but we do have a choice. We have the freedom to change. If our temperament is tamasic predominantly, we can make it rajasic. If it's rajasic, we can move towards sattvic also. As a matter of fact, everyone living on the surface of the earth comes to express himself in one of these classifications due to the preponderance of our gunas. Gunas, the sattvikta, rajasikta, or tamsikta. So yajna, dan, tap, and ahar. Quality and the quantity of all of these. We are declaring ourselves where we belong. Chandogya Upanishad explains that the coarsest part of the food we eat passes out as feces. The subtler part becomes flesh, and the subtlest part becomes the mind. That's why this famous saying, ahar shuddhau sattva shuddhi. By eating pure food, the mind becomes pure. So eating is very important too. But not just only the eating. Lord Krishna mentions the other areas of our life also. Another thing you got to remember that we should not try to judge others with this information. We should not classify others that they are tamasic or rajasic or even sattvic. Hinduism is a subjective science bringing about a fuller unfoldment of the dormant potentialities in our own personality. All this knowledge we are getting and gaining so that we can improve ourselves. Each one of us will have to purify ourselves from the dullness of the tamas, agitations of the rajas, and keep ourselves in the creative alertness and the spiritual glow of sattva. Beyond that, beyond sattva, it is a grace of a God and the Guru. But our effort should take us towards the sattvikta in all these endeavors. So let's look at what sattvic food is, because first he talks about the food. Ayu, sattva, bal, arogya, sukh, priti, vivardhana, rasya, snigdha, sthira, hrida, ahara, satvik, priya. Ayu means life. Sattva, purity. Bal, strength. Arogya, health. See, rog means sickness, arogya means health. Sukh is the joy, priti means cheerfulness. Vivardhana, which increase. So together the whole line is those which increase life, purity, strength, health, joy, cheerfulness. Rasya, juicy, savory. Snigdha, smooth. Sthira, substantial. Hridha, agreeable. That means nutritious. Ahara, the foods, satvik, priya, are dear to the sattviks. So the foods which increase life, purity, strength, health, joy, and cheerfulness. That means a good appetite. which are savory and smooth, substantial and agreeable, are dear to the sattvic. Actually, the reverse is also true. People with the tamasic mind will like tamasic food. But this kind of a food is agreeable, is enjoyable by the sattvic mind. So in describing the peculiar taste for foods in sattvic people, or people with spiritual urge, so he is telling us that they like only such a diet which increases the vitality and not sheer bulk, which supplies the energy for meditative purposes, because we need that strength in this body to do our duties as well as to be able to sit still for a longer period of time, which discovers for us a secret strength to resist the temptations for sense objects. Because senses, they just automatically get tempted towards the sense objects. We need a bal to be able to revert back. So food which will provide health so that we may not too often fall sick and suffer and break our regular sadhana. Physically sick person, unless they have really attained some heights in the spirituality, very hard for a sick person to do the sadhana. So that's why a sattvic temperament keeps this in mind. So such people will have a natural inclination to take food which will augment joy, priti vivardhana, and inner cheerfulness. So this is their choice. So in simpler words, you can say that foods which is clean, wholesome, with no chance for them when consumed to putrefy them or make them sick. Because we all know that food has a certain effects upon the eater. Generally, an eater to some extent is conditioned by the type of diet he eats. So not only that our inner nature is built by the type of a food consumed, but the inner nature in its turn commands our tastes. And we find very often that we have developed an irresistible appetite for certain types of food. We long to have that. Sattvic person will long to have sattvic food. Now in the next verse, he's explaining the Rajasic type of food, or the Rajasic type of temperament, what kind of a taste they have in their food. Verse number 9, Katu amal lavan atyushan tikshnaha rukshaha vidahina ahara rajasasya ishtaha dukh shok amyaprada. Katu, bitter. Amal, sour. Lavan, salty. Atyushan, excessively hot. Tikshan, pungent. Ruksha, dry. Vidahina, burning. Second line, ahara is foods. Rajasya, of the Rajasic. Ishtaha, are liked. Dukh, shok. Dukh is the pain, shok is grief, and amya means disease. So are productive of pain, grief, and disease. So foods that are bitter, sour, saline, excessively hot, pungent, dry, and burning are liked by the Rajasic and are productive of pain, grief, and disease. See, the sattvic food was a sweet, soft, nourishing, agreeable. This is little opposite of that. Sheer Rajasic person is called a man of energy, passionate, So that person will desire such food that have strong flavor, dense taste, bitter, sour, very hot, pungent, harsh, burning tastes are to be liking of all the vigorous men. Restlessly striving to fulfill their uncontrolled passions and desires. This kind of a doubt, no doubt, creates in a person brilliant energy. But in their wildness, they are to a degree uncontrollable. And the final reaction of this kind of a diet is a productive of pain, grief, and disease. So from these two verses, we can understand that when the texture of thought improves, the individual finds himself changing his tastes also. So his choice of food, which will give satisfaction to him, will change. And then what is tamasic then? Number 10. Yat yamam gat rasam puti pariushitam cha yat ushishtam apij amedhyam bhojanam tamas priyam yat yamam. That means stale. Yam means 3 hours. So which has been kept outside for 3 hours. That becomes a little stale. Gat rasam is tasteless. Putihi, stinking. Pariushitam, rotten. Cha means and, yat means rich. Ushishtam, leftover. Refuge. Api means also, cha means and, amedhyam means impure. Bhojanam, food. Tamas priyam, liked by the tamasic. That which is stale, tasteless, stinking, and rotten, refuge, and impure is the food liked by the tamasic. So yat yamam, a day is divided into 8 yams. So a period of 3 hours is a 1 yam. So food cooked 3 hours earlier, kept outside, according to Bhagavad Gita, it's a spoiled food. Room temperature 3 hours. Okay. These days you will say we have the fridges and the freezers. So that's why I always tell you the general rule is do not keep the food more than 3 hours outside after cooking. 3 days in the fridge and 3 months in the freezer. Because we do have that technology these days. Even in the freezer, we know that food kept for too long, it loses its nutritional value or even the taste. Sure, there are some preserved foods, stored vegetables, canned food. But we know that how much nutrition is left in those foods. Gat rasam, even 5,000 years ago, Lord Krishna said, it's tasteless. And we know that fresh taste versus the old food. I mean, some of even the fast food restaurants in this country, they just throw away the bagels and the donuts after a few hours because they lose their taste. So, putihi, so men of inertia or the tamsikta have a natural liking for a stinking food, insufferable smell. And men of purity, however, would instinctively revolt against a diet that has any stink about it. We all go to the stores If we are vegetarians, can we even look at where the meat is kept? We can't. We can feel that energy, the negative energy from there. This is what happens. The sattvic temperament will be inclined to move towards the sattvika, and tamasic, they will move towards that. Rotten food that has been cooked overnight, kept for days together. All the fermented drinks, which tamasic people love to indulge in. That's what he's talking about. So unclean food seems to attract the taste of all people of ignorance. They love to eat that kind of a food. Impure, filthy food that is not fit for human consumption. That's what Lord Krishna is saying in simple language. So sattvic food, rajasic food, and tamasic food. Now let's look at the yajna also, the sacrifice. And if you remember, the question was put in by Arjun in the beginning of this chapter. How important it is to study the scriptures. From this detail, we can see that it's very important to study the scriptures. Otherwise, who will give us this kind of a knowledge? Step-by-step knowledge. So scriptures are very, very important in our life. That's why we go to a guru to study the scripture, to understand the scriptures, because books are inert on their own. So we go to the guru, so guru can enliven those. Rishi Patanjali also talked about Swadhyay. All the great rishis, they talk about Swadhyay. On our own, we really don't know. Very few people are born with this kind of a knowledge in them, or they are aware of this knowledge. Majority of us need a guru, need the scriptures. So let's look at what is a sattvic yajna. Verse number 11. Afala akanksha bhi yajna vidhi drishtaha ya ichyate yashtvayam ev iti manaha samadhaya sa sattvika. Afala kanksha bhi. See, afal means no fruit. Kanksha bhi means desiring or expectation. So by people desiring no fruits or without expectation of any reward, yajna, sacrifice, vidhi drishtaha, according to the injunction of the scriptures. See, that's why scriptures are important. Otherwise, how will we know what is the injunction of the scripture is? Or what is the ordinance mentioned in the scriptures? Ya means which, ijyate is offered. Yashtvayam ought to be offered. Ev means only, iti means thus, mana, the mind. Samadhaya, having fixed. Sa means that, sattvika, pure. That sacrifice, which is offered by people without desire for fruit, and as enjoined by the ordinance of the scriptures, with a firm faith that sacrifice is a duty, is sattvic or pure. Okay, so sacrifice really means the worship. Worship. That's why whenever we do the fire ceremony, it's called a sacrifice. Whenever we are sitting down and praying, that's a sacrifice. What are we doing? We are sacrificing our time. We are sacrificing whatever God has given it to us for the benefit of others. Any action where the fruits are spread for others is called a sacrifice. It's not that we are sacrificing somebody else's life. We are sacrificing our own personal time also, and whatever possessions we have for the betterment of the others, remembering God. Okay, so when we think that, yeah, doing the sacrifice, doing the worship, spending the time praying for others also is my duty, and I really don't get attached to the fruits. That is sattvic. Sattvic. So performed by people desiring no fruits. So in other words, nishkam bhakti. Sakam bhakti is not sattvic. Nishkam bhakti is sattvic. So spirit of selflessness has to be there if you want to be sattvic. Because the burning anxiety for the fruits of action is very unprofitable channel of dissipation of our vital energy. Because when we are doing the worship and part of our mind is just thinking about it, will I get what I want? Will I get what I want? You are not totally attached to God at all. So fruit belongs to the future period of time. Waste the present is very unintelligent policy of existence. So not just only the prayers, but otherwise also whenever we are doing other actions, a yogi stays in the present. And then he says, as required by ordinance. We have learned in the Karma Yoga section, actions in the world fall under 4 categories. According to the ancient Vedic philosophy. The first kind of action is called a kamya karma. Desire, full of desires, kamya karma. And the second is nishedha karma, forbidden actions. So desire fulfilling actions and forbidden actions. These 2 types should be avoided. Avoided. The other 2 classes of actions, the nitya karam and namatik karam. Nitya karam means your daily duties, and namatik karam, special duties on special occasions. They should be diligently pursued. A daily duty. We all get up in the morning. We take care of our body. We pray. We meditate. And there are so many other actions which we do. Daily activities we must do. And namatik karam, the special duties on special occasions. It's like even a weekly satsang, or the birthdays or anniversaries, or celebrating, just like last Sunday we celebrated Guru Puja, or there's so many other celebrations, those fall under namatik karam. So these 2 types, nitya and namatik, together constitute what the Shastras term as the unavoidable karam, obligatory duties of a human being. So these actions and duties are indicated here as those required by the ordinance. And we must do nitya and namatik. And sacrifice is our duty. This is the motive behind our actions, even while doing the nitya karam and namatik karam. If we do it thinking that this is my duty to do, we will not dissipate any inner energies, either through anxieties to gain a certain result, or even through our restlessness of our mind. So mind will be completely rested that, hey, I am doing it because I'm supposed to do it. The Vedas, the scriptures, they talked about it, and I am doing it, and not for the fruit I'm doing it because it's my duty to do it. That's how we consciously feel joyful while pursuing our line of action. No action is a burden then. Every action is a joyful action. Because we know that my action is conducive to the welfare of all. Because that's what the sacrifice says. No matter what I'm doing, I am making sure that nobody gets hurt. The fruits should be distributed. You all know after the Havan Yajna, what do? Towards the end, we stand up. Sarve bhavantu sukhina. Sarve santu niramya. That's why that's a yajna. That's why that's a sacrifice. You poured the ghee and the samagri and the wood, your time. You made the prasad. You offered it to the fire. But at the end, you are saying, please, God, take care of everybody. That's why it's a yajna. And these kind of actions are classified under the sattvic type of sacrifices. Okay, so do not get attached to the fruits. Definitely know what you're supposed to do and do it because it's your duty, and do it lovingly. Do it faithfully. Then it becomes sattvic. What kind of action is rajasic? Let's look at that. Or what kind of a sacrifice or the yajna is, or a worship is rajasic. Verse number 12. Abhi sanghaye tu phalam damb artham apicha evyat ijyate bharat shreshta tam yagyam vidhi rajasam. Abhi sanghaye, seeking for. Tu means indeed, phalam means fruit. Damb artham, for ostentation. Api means also, cha means and, ev even, yat which. Ijyate is offered. Bharat Shrestha, oh best of the Bharats. That's it for Arjuna. Lord Krishna uses that several times. Bharat Shrestha. Tam means that, yagyam sacrifices, vidhi no, rajasam rajasek. The sacrifice which is offered, O best of the Bharats, seeking for fruit and for ostentation, dhamma. Know that to be a rajasic yajna. So number one is that what will I get in return? That is in the mind of a doer. And second, what will other things? They'll think that I'm such a great sacrificer. Done. These are the two things over here. So with a view to gain a fruit, say abhisanghaye tu phalam, then dambha, both of the things over here. They're opposite of the sattvic worship. So in order to gain a chosen result, some people act in the world, and naturally, while in the field of the activity, when they are doing the action, they are too much preoccupied with their anxieties and the worries. Will I get that or not? Will I get that or not? They grow more and more nervous at their own imaginations. And their own mind becomes full of fear, whether they will gain a particular chosen goal or not. If they don't get it, what? What will others say? So God, or the love for God goes out of the mind. It's only the fear and the anxiety and the fruit that is in the mind. So view to gain a particular fruit, and the second is for ostentation. There are others in the world who act so vigorously to gain a predetermined goal, but merely for satisfying the vanity by exhibiting their wealth or even knowledge, and generally proving themselves to be show people of the society. But what will others say about me? I have performed such a great yajna. So divine act doesn't remain a divine act actually. because they will not gain the reward of cheerfulness or inner peace, even though they did the sacrifice. So that is the outcome of a Rajasic yajna. In fact, the worship or the sacrifice becomes a form of a business with God. If it is performed with great pomp and show and selfish spirit, that's Rajasic. Let's look at what is a Tamasic then. Vidhihinam, asrishtanam, mantrahinam, adakshinam, Shraddha virahitam, yagyam tamasam parichakshate. Vidhihinam, without keeping to ordinance. Asrishtanam, in which no food is distributed. Mantrahinam, devoid of mantras. Dakshinam, which is devoid of dakshina. Shraddha virahitam, which is devoid of faith. Yagyam, sacrifice. Tamsam, tamsic. Parichakshate, they declare. They declare that sacrifice to be tamsic, which is contrary to the ordinance, in which no food is distributed, which is devoid of mantras and gifts, and which is devoid of faith. At every moment in life, we have choices regarding what to do. There are proper actions that are beneficial for society and even us. And who is deciding? We got to think about it. Is my karma, my action, helpful to others or not? That's why we have to study the scriptures. Injunction of the scriptures serve as guide maps. And wherever a doubt arises, we consult these scriptures. And if we cannot understand ourselves, because sometimes scriptures are written in an ancient language, we should always go to the teacher who knows how to decode these scriptures. Those in the mode of ignorance do not have faith in the scriptures, first of all. Because in this verse, we are talking about Tamasic yajna. They don't have faith in the scriptures. They do carry out religious ceremonies, but disregard the ordinance of the scriptures. And that's what Lord Krishna means over here. Disobeying all the prescriptions laid out in the scriptures and acting all Vedic injunctions. So the sacrifices are performed because of the Tamasic nature, the lowest type. And this kind of a sacrifice cannot bring any happiness either to the performer or in its final analysis to his generation. That means to the others also. Distribution of food. In the scriptural language, the term food indicates all necessities of life. Food, clothing, shelter. Wherever we can help others, we should help if we are doing a yajna. A person who is doing the sacrifice should think about it deeply. Try to share. We should have a mentality of sharing. We don't own it all. In fact, we don't own anything. We are only the custodians of it all, whatever we have. When rituals are conducted without mantra, mantra means the name of God. You're not remembering God. What kind of a sacrifice is that? Or without distribution of the reward for the for the priests, dakshina. And those sacrifices are classified as tamasic. Remember that. So without without mantra, and without dakshina, and with no faith, just doing it blindly. So now we'll see in the next section, he's classifying 3 types of tap also. 3 types of tap pursued by the different types of people. Tap can be at the body level, at the thought level, and at the words level too. So manasaha, kayaha, and vacha. 3 levels. And all 3 can be sattvic, rajasic, or tamasic. So this is what he's going to explain in the next few verses. Let's look at verse number 14. Dev dvij pragye pujnam, shaucham arjuvam, brahmacharyam ahimsa cha, shariram tapa uchyate. So this is a bodily level of tapa. Dev means the gods. Dvij, twice born. Pragya, the wise, or the teachers. So worship of the gods, the twice born, the teachers, and the wise. Dev, dvij, pragya, pujna. Shaucham, purity. Arjavam, simplicity. Or another meaning of this is a straightforwardness. Arjavam. Brahmacharyam, celibacy. And celibacy through all the organs. Ahimsa, non-injury. Cha means and, shariram, of the body. Tapaha, austerity. Uchyate is called. Worship of the gods. The twice born. The teachers and the wise. Purity, straightforwardness, celibacy, and non-injury are called the austerity of the body. To maintain an attitude of attunement with the higher ideal, so that we can develop the qualities of the meditated, is called worship. So that is what pujanam is. So that means we got to develop ourselves morally also, ethically also. And through the worship, we see whether we are growing in those areas or not. It is almost like the touch method of magnetism. So when we are close to our Guru, we are close to a wise person, or when we are sitting in our altar, thinking about God, we get those qualities. So in order to spend some time with the Guru, or the wise person, or the teachers, we need to stay away from, take some time out and spend some time. And that's why that's called the tapa. Pujanam does not mean that we just go there and take the arti thali and do the puja. Spending some time with that kind of attitude, so that we cultivate those qualities also which these great people have. Devatas, the Gurus, and the Gyanis. A person who's trying to come away from their inner personality and encumbrances must have an attitude of devotion and reverence. It's not going to a Guru to just have some kind of a debate. There got to be some reverence in our heart also, towards the ideals which are represented in the Devata or in a deity, or which has been lived by the Guru or some other wise person, or whatever the wise people recommend to us, have some faith and reverence for that. The word Dvij really means twice born. Sometimes this word is used for the Brahmins in the highest order, just not by the namesake, but who have cultivated this highest level of sattvikta in them, or a person who has realized the self. Because first time we are born from the womb of our mother. The second time when we go to a guru and we realize who we are born again. We are born out of the ignorance which we created around us. But we are yet in the womb of the matter. That is the darkness. That's why we need to spend some time at the feet of the Guru, to hatch ourselves out of our matter identification and to emerge out in the joy of perfection is to grow into the divine state. You remember the previous chapter? He said there are Devik gun, divine qualities, and then there are demonic qualities. We got to get out of the demonic qualities and establish our mind into the divine state. Dev Asur Sampat Vibhaga Yoga, that was the name of the chapter, if you recall. This is conceived in our philosophy as the second birth, Dvij. And a person who has accomplished it is called twice born. Twice born. So it's good to spend time with this kind of a person if we are fortunate enough to have somebody like that in our life. Hopefully, it will rub on us also. So then he says purity and straightforwardness, Shaucham and Arjavam. Unless a seeker diligently practices straightforwardness in his dealings with the others, he will be developing in himself a split personality, which will drain away all kind of a tranquility, mental vitality. So we got to make sure that we are straightforward and pure. Shaucham and Arjam. The next qualification, he says, brahmacharya. The literal meaning of brahmacharya is a constant reveling in the contemplation of the Supreme. Brahm is called brahmacharya. This is not possible unless our nature is turned away from the bodily indulgences in sense objects and our minds are trained to turn inward to the spirit. So in order to do that, there's a tapasya required. That's why this is a sattvic tapasya. Then non-injury, refraining from bringing any physical harm to others in the society, is a non-injury. So tap is not a life of brutal self-denial, but it is an intelligent method of living in the right relationship with the world of objects. And do not dissipate your vital energies. These energies, we got to conserve and direct them, employ them, cultivating the creative fields. So this scheme, which he's mentioning over here, of discovering precious new energies, conserving intelligently, and directing those energies towards the spirituality, is called tapa. It's not just sitting or lying down on the nails of bed or keeping yourself hungry days after days. No. We got to conserve the energy properly. Self-control, conservation of energy, and redirection of that energy towards the highest. That's what he's talking about over here. He is endorsing that kind of a tap as a sattvic tap, intelligent tap. And this is only at the bodily level he's talking about. Okay. So worship of the gods, the twice born, the teachers, and the wise. If you have to spend time with them, that is a tap. Purity, straightforwardness, celibacy, and non-injury, these are all called or parts of the austerity or the tap of the body. Okay, try to understand it, and then we look at it. What is the tap of the speech in verse number 15 next week. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaye Purnameva Vishishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Thank you very much.